Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Yarns with Andy. Today I've got Brett Christie from David Reed, David Reed Holmes. He's pretty much done every single job that you can think of. I suppose he's been a designer, he's been an engineer to the contract, and he currently develops high-end homes. Mate, thank you so much for being here.
No problem, Andy.
Yeah,
it's great to be here.
Tell us a bit more about yourself. And
But to what you said, I sort of got out of school and went and drew some houses as a draftsman, worked out the next best step was doing an engineering degree, so I did that down in Canterbury, worked as an engineer, and then we started having earthquakes down there. And it was kind of funny, where those earthquakes started to happen was about where I decided I didn't want to be an engineer anymore. So very shortly after the first earthquake in 2010, I actually switched over to being a project manager.
so you didn't want to be an engineer, so you decided to be an engineer to the contract.
That's kind of where the change actually happened, yeah. And then went for a few months, and then we had another big earthquake, and I was heavily involved there. I was actually one of the first and key people on site at CTV after the collapse of that building, and it was an interesting day. And then sort of subsequent to that, was working for Arrow International and was appointed as the project manager to repair the Palms Shopping Centre. So that was like the first major repair in Christchurch. And man, it was controversial because everyone, seemed to think that we should be demolishing these big buildings. And we were like, man, the buildings have performed perfectly. So anyway, we got to the end of it. It was one of the most satisfying experiences of my life, that job, being able to hand a facility back to a community who in East Auckland had lost everything. And so it was a great job. It was great fun. And then by the end of that year, I think I was getting married, and I was telling the owner of Arrow at my wedding that, oh, by the way, I'm moving to Auckland, and came up and did Botany Town Centre. So that was at the time, the New Zealand's biggest leaky building.
So Botany Town Centre was a leaky building, was it?
Yeah. Well, it was also one of the straws that broke the mainsail back. So I actually, the week before mainsail put themselves in the bin, I had their whole board walking around the roofs and looking at stuff and taking stuff off. I wasn't allowed to be with them, but I was about 15 metres away from them. And the writing was on the wall. I mean, everything you took off looked pretty bad. Yeah. So that was about 2.5 years. And then I was actually with A&P Capital, so I was effectively the client project manager, which is more of a corporate role than it is project management, so to speak. And then went on and became a development manager for them. So I was doing sort of different works all over the place, but that involved repairing more buildings in Christchurch, like ground levelling supermarkets that they owned, and did a couple of developments, Bethlehem Town Centre. We put a Kmart there and a whole lot of shops and stuff, and then they sold that subsequently.
So you've had quite an interesting journey, eh? So you've gone from being a designer to an engineer to the contract.
Yeah.
To now most recently being a developer.
And it was those skills at AMP as a developer that when I carried into David Reed Holmes, I guess David Reed Holmes' national business sort of saw me as being kind of favourable because, contracts was a bit of a second nature thing. Engineering's kind of handy to have. Project management, I knew kind of how to build, not residentially, but I know how to put things together. But the development thing, they didn't really know about, and then we came in, and the first thing we did was bought a couple of pieces of land and developed them out ourselves, and that's been something that I've really led, and it's been fantastic. Like, it's been a lot of fun. And what we always said about David Reed Holmes and my space in there is that every other franchise around the country does beautiful single homes, and these guys are renowned for it all over the country. And I always said all I wanted to do was build a medium density product that kind of fitted with their portfolio. And we were really proud to say that we've kind of done that. We've done a couple of cool developments in recent over the last sort of 4 years, and they look fantastic. They're really cool.
I follow your Instagram page, and got a good social media team. I love the videos you guys put out. It's pretty cool. And when I've checked out some of the houses on the ones that you put on Instagram at least, and it's definitely high end.
Yeah, no, they do.
Pretty cool.
I mean, there's some of the, in particular, some of the guys around the country. I mean, they've kind of built, or David Reed Holmes's whole reputation has resided around that. Yeah. And so then for us, it's kind of like taking everything that they do really well and putting it into medium density, which is difficult because we're very constrained, site sizes, rules around planning regulations, all that kind of thing. Yeah. But selecting to do those jobs kind of in good suburbs is like the basis for us, and then we go and put a really good product. I mean, some of the terraced houses I'm building now are 180 to 230 square metres, 3 levels with lifts, and that's kind of like the bread and butter of what we do, is something a bit different to what the market normally provides.
Yeah, that's awesome, mate. No, cool. That's a cool intro. Fuck, that was a bad fucking...
No, you're on fire. She waved her hand. I was like, shit, I'm out.
Shit, I like, fuck this shit.
I think that was good timing. Otherwise, I was going to go on for another 10 minutes.
Are we okay to just cut there?
We can just cut.
You do that.
I just want to like finish with your comment and like what you were saying.
I didn't have anything to say. That's why I fucking phased out.
Yeah. That's a bit of,
Yeah, no,
Okay.
that's fine. We just go on to the next question.
Okay, cool. Okay. I wanna go away from the questions. Yeah, a
Go,
little bit.
you
go.
fire away, man. Yeah.
Brett, so let's talk about the downfall of Arrow.
Yeah.
I wanna get into that a little bit, and because given your insights from the inside,
Yes.
I want to understand what happened.
Yeah. I've got to be careful how I answer. No, I don't really. Do I? One of the people, just so you know, I guess to give some context, one of the owners of Arrow was my mentor. I was at Becca, I was catching up every month or two with him, and I thought I was the bee's knees, meeting with the owner of a major construction firm, and he was very much leading me in the direction, I guess, that I've ended up going. And he is also involved with David Reed New Zealand, and is absolutely like an absolute inspiration to me. But where they always sold themselves as a main contractor.
Yep.
Though, as opposed to other main contractors in that realm and that size, they contracted everything out. Now, by the way, that's exactly what my business does. We are effectively a project management business.
Yep.
So,
Because you don't build anything directly yourself.
No.
You subcontract everything.
I employ project managers.
Yeah. And that's what 99.99% of New Zealand's main contracting
That's right.
companies do. So
Yeah.
So effectively, you're managing risk. You know?
That's right. And bingo. That's exactly right. You're managing risk.
Yeah.
That's what it is. And the expertise that we tend to take in, and Arrow had at the time, I mean, some of the guys that I worked with in Arrow and Christchurch were the best in the industry, in my view. And I still have an enormous respect for absolutely every one of them.
So what the fuck happened?
Yeah, I know. It's like, what happened?
How does it go broke? How do they go under?
Look, there was one or two things that sort of happened. Arrow didn't, I don't think, bring in enough of their key people into the ownership circle, maybe in the early days. So some of these very key people.
So Fletcher's don't, Downers don't.
No, point taken. But I think that would have been a way of really holding and taking in those really excellent people, maybe in more of a capacity than they did. And I'm not saying it was ultimately necessary, but that may have been one thing, because I think then is they had people that were kind of controlling, let's say, elements, and the main owners were kind of detached. But then they'd have to be brought back in if something had gone wrong. And so realistically, I think that it's either you're in or you're out, I think, from that
So
perspective.
just set the scene up for me, right? Okay. So give or take, how many active projects would Arrow have had when they went down?
Oh, goodness me. That's really hard to tell, because
That's okay.
that
Yeah,
countrywide,
estimate it. Yeah,
I would have
countrywide, yeah.
thought. I mean, you're talking significant projects. It would have been 30, 40, 50.
Yep.
Like big, good sized projects, anything sort of north of 5 million. I mean, I was doing a couple for them before the earthquakes, and they were smaller, but they were a big company at that time.
Okay. So they had about 40 projects ongoing.
Yeah.
And
Maybe.
So how many of those projects would you categorize as high risk
Yeah,
jobs?
well, I mean, given the contract and given the way that development or developers give these jobs to the contractor, I mean, geez, half of them? That's my
Shit.
view.
Right.
I'm looking at the jobs we do right now, and we're a much smaller business.
So what you're telling me is 50% of the jobs were likely to go over budget and over time.
I'd say it's not just the budget where it comes down to responsibility and where the risk is.
Yep.
And I mean, like, one of the very, very key projects that Arrow had the problem with was to do with a lot of earthworks and reinforcing for the ground in terms of the foundations and whatnot. And that risk somehow fell on the contractor.
All your risk is in the ground. And,
Well,
and
90% of
Arrow
the time.
didn't tag out of that?
Well, I believe that they. Well, again, I don't know. I wasn't
it's okay,
involved
okay.
with it because
Yeah,
it's a
that's
different.
fine.
It was a different. I mean, bear in mind, this
I
is
mean,
happening much after me. but-
every main contractor I know would tag out of ground conditions. Because
Yeah, absolutely.
Because all your risk it's volcanic soil.
Yeah,
New Zealand's
correct.
full of volcanic
Absolutely,
soil.
yeah.
You don't know whether you're going to hit rock, whether you're going to hit basalt. You
No.
have no idea what you're going to hit.
No.
You don't know when how deep your pile's going to go.
No,
you,
that's right.
You might have a design length, but
Yeah.
when you actually start piling, mate.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what Dave Martin and I were talking about. With the,
Yeah, exactly
the
right.
ground risk,
Exactly right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's the same with us. We have those same risks
Yeah.
generally. Yep. Tag out. And I don't think I don't think in the main one or one of the main jobs that really made them fail, I don't believe it was actually just solely that point, because they ended up in court against one of the civil contractors. So there was obviously some sort of massive issue that had happened there. But look, with main contracting, it's like anything. The kind of like the focus, and dare I say it, this is a really high level picture, and this is my perspective, but I think that the job of the developer is to offload all of the risk they possibly can onto the contractor without the contractor knowing. That's my view.
I fucking disagree.
You don't reckon? The developer's role is to try and offload as much
No,
risk.
see, I completely disagree. See, and that is why I believe our industry is in the state it is in.
Yeah.
Yeah, because NZ 3910 completely promotes that transfer of risk from the client, your developer,
Yep,
who you
yep,
want to call that person,
yep.
over to the main contractor.
Yep.
Guess what happens from that point in time? The main contractor then divvies that entire risk and passes it downstream to all the subcontractors.
Yeah.
Fucking shit flows downhill. No. This is the behavior that's got to stop in this industry.
Totally agree. So actually, we're actually agreeing on the same point. This is actually the ultimate issue with the construction industry.
Yep.
Is that
It's the biggest problem.
Firstly, normally, and I say this because we're a developer as well, right?
Yep.
When we manage our own projects, we know that the risk is entirely ours. Fantastic. When you're aware of it and you can provision for it and you know what items you have to provision for, then that's absolutely fine. And so what we actually do is we do a very clean building contract with our own development entity. The builder is there for just building, and here's the things that we've allowed for. But you think about it in a normal case, a main contractor will go, oh, we've had this issue. And a lot of the time, you're going to get pushback from the client/developer because what they're trying to protect is their contingency.
Yep.
Because, of course, contingency falls to the bottom line if they don't spend
Because
it.
as a developer or a client, you don't want to go back to the bank and say,
Nope.
hey, I kind of need
Exactly.
another $50 million.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
somebody didn't do a design properly. We didn't know what the ground conditions were. We didn't know
That's-
X, Y, Z.
That's it. And I mean, that's even more trickier part if it comes into design conditions. Because, of course, claiming anything on PI is,
Yeah.
no one's going to be doing that because there's too many outs. So the risk ends up falling between these two parties, and that developer
I
is
believe
trying to push it down.
there's a different way we can do things, right?
The faster we get out of the mess we're in. I mean, as I was explaining to you before, there's 3915 and there's 3910, and 3915 we've used a few times, and I hate it. I hate it because it has no independent voice at the table. So the reason that developers in our realm want to use 3915 is because they don't have to pay an individual separate engineer to contract. That's why they do it. And then they maintain the control.
Okay,
But then
we will get to that conversation a bit later.
Cool.
I do want to dig into that a bit more.
Yeah.
But first, I want to know what caused the downfall of Arrow.
Well,
Come back
yeah.
to it. What
Look,
do
there
you
was-
think was the tipping point?
Well, it's a little bit like Mainzeal.
Did they take on too much risk?
There were jobs that were high risk, and as soon as they started to cascade, where do you go from there? There's only one way.
Because the same thing happened to Fletcher's, and they lost $1 billion, and they declared it in the newspapers, right? But
And the taxpayer
Fletcher's
comes in.
No, not really. But I mean, Fletcher's I think could absorb that because Fletcher's
They're
had,
much bigger, yeah.
mate, the biggest construction company in New Zealand. Not just construction company. They're
everything.
building product supplier.
Yep.
They are
Yep.
product
Resi-
manufacturer.
Housing, they do everything.
They do
Yeah,
everything.
yeah.
They do everything. So the other business units could kind of compensate for that loss.
Yeah.
But I'm assuming Arrow didn't have a building product supply and
No, they were just there. And
They were
like
just-
I say, a couple of jobs, because it wasn't one, it was
Yep.
more than one, and they kind of happened in succession, if you like.
yeah,
It was all, once it was starting to go, they voluntarily liquidated. They couldn't do anything else.
yeah, mate. Interesting, eh? I mean, it would be good to kind of identify how other companies do not fall into the same trap and manage their own risk.
Yeah. Well, I know contractors that we've dealt with. So I dealt with in my previous life. I'm not going to mention names, but these guys are they're brilliant at it, and they have whole departments of people who are identifying and managing that risk.
Yeah, and companies are getting better at it, which is a good thing.
Yeah, be better if we just change the contract though.
I don't know, but I think there was a video that was out yesterday. I just said, yep, we need to promote more collaboration, digitalization.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah.
I'll let you go a bit longer because you guys are on such a roll.
Yeah.
Sorry if I haven't been able to completely answer that though, because I am a little.
That's all right. Don't worry about it. I mean,
exactly
it's a fucking
how
podcast, mate.
is beyond my knowledge. But
Yeah. Where do you want to take this conversation to? I don't even know what Bridget said.
Well, I mean...
Okay, let's talk about 3910 and 3916. Okay?
5. Yep.
39.
Yeah.
3915?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. I need to stop thinking your name's David A.
Yeah. Don't worry about it. Yeah, no, it's all good.
All right. Brett, so you've been a designer, you've been an engineer to the contract, you've had interesting roles, right?
Yeah.
You worked on 3910, you worked on 3915.
Yeah.
Just for a layman, just articulate the key differences between the two from your perspective.
Yeah. Well, the key difference.
The key difference?
Yep.
One? You can boil it
in
to
my
one?
view,
Cool.
there's one. I mean,
One?
obviously, 3915 is meant for smaller projects. That's generally the way it works. The reason is that there's a key part that's omitted or taken out of the 3915 contract, and that's the separate engineer to contract. So the 3915 enables, especially in our case, the client to become the kind of engineer. Now, that's a problem. Because
That's conflict of interest.
Yeah. You have a disagreement, and we're like, well, no, it's a variation. And they go, no, it's not. No, simple. It's just not. And we have this very recently and for a whole project. And we're like, no, it's very clearly not on the documentation. No, you said you'd do it. Yeah, and that's the kind of pushback. And it's like, well, okay, so our only option in the case of a disagreement is actually to go and get mediation. What a waste of flipping time and money that is.
Yeah,
and so it actually becomes severely, it really compromises our ability. And what ends up happening is that if that particular item is going to potentially delay the project, but you've got a client that will disagree with, oh, well, it's not my problem, then the damages risk falls on us, doesn't it, for delays. And delays cost us more than they cost the developer, because we're the ones that are paying for all the people to be there, paying for the extension of scaffold, paying for the extension of insurance, all that stuff.
PNGs.
So we end up, if we're like, we've got a bloody disagreement. Oh, okay, look, he's not going to do it. Oh, fuck, let's just do it. Just get it out of the way, And we end up having to do that just to keep the project going, so that we can kind of finish it within a acceptable realm of time frame.
So get back to, so there's no engineer to the contract in
3915.
3915, right? How is that different to 3910, where your engineer to the contract is the same company that does your design?
Yeah, that's a conflict of interest too. Absolutely. and I'm sorry to all the, I used to work at Becker, and I don't want to bring them into it specifically. But
it's not just Becker. There's multiple other companies that do that.
There is. There's heaps.
Like how is that different?
No, it's not different. That's exactly right. Because if you have an issue and it becomes a design issue, are they completely able to isolate themselves and say, no, this is a design issue? If it's their own company...
There's never a design problem if that's the case.
Oh, that's exactly right.
So there's no difference then, is there?
That's right.
Oh,
but
mate.
at least in the situation where we go in 3915, and we're doing a big 10-house development in Mission Bay at the moment on a 3910 contract.
3910?
Yep. An independent QS, like a bank QS, who is also acting as the engineer to contract.
PQS?
Yep. And the best thing about it, in my view, is at least if we have, the client and I have a disagreement, which doesn't happen very often really, because it's our spec, our design, our build. No, it doesn't happen often at all. That job's going fantastic.
Okay.
Yeah, I know, it's hard to believe, but possible. If we had a disagreement, we would present it to the engineer to contract at the monthly project control meeting, and they would make an assessment based on the information that we give them. That's fantastic. Oh, it's like independent person, thank goodness. If they turn around and say, no, it's your issue.
But they're seldom independent though, right?
Well, mainly they're being paid by the client. Yeah, so
100%
that makes it hard.
paid by the client.
Yeah, but their role under the contract is to be independent. So at least if we disagreed that they were being independent, that'd be a hard one to prove, of course. But you could take other steps in that regard. But at least you have...
Which costs you more money. Which
Yeah,
costs
I
you more time,
know.
which
But
costs
at least you have a separate one. But just further to that job, we are design and build. So they had the site, we came up with...
So you're 3916 on that then?
No. So we did the design as a separate agreement.
Okay.
And then we went into the build, and then we've got this, it's in the contract, we're like, is there something else, if there's some kind of design issue, whose responsibility? No, that's ours, because we designed it for you. And so we had a couple of things that had to be remediated by our builder because the architect's drawings had a detail or two missing or whatever. That's just us. We just sort that. Contingency, it comes out of the bottom line, whatever it does. But the clients love it. We've only got a handful of variations, and those variations are for power usage because we excluded it, and for things that their buyers have wanted to change to the build.
Yeah, because you're in control of the design. You can build in buildability. You can come up with the most efficient methodology. You can build in products into the design that you can procure.
We put all of our products in the spec, in the contract, as part of the design. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So
it's working so well.
Yeah, right.
So it can work.
Yeah.
But then again, I mean, you're only one disagreement away from it all going pear-shaped. So you never know exactly where.
Because that's the thing, right? As a builder, all you need is that one thing to go wrong.
I know.
You need that one transformer from Sweden to take another additional 20 weeks.
That's it. That's exactly right. And that's the worst thing about building. Sorry, here we go. Now, here I go off the deep end because I'm like, man, I just like to sell jet skis or sell Japanese cars or something else than building, because building is so tricky. What we are doing is we're collating a whole lot of people from high wage to minimum wage, putting them all together and getting them to put something together with their hands. Do you think there's going to be mistakes? Oh my God, yes. There's always mistakes, and they happen every single day. Our role is to turn up to work expecting to have to solve someone's problem. You have to do it every day.
But here's the thing, right? We've just been doing it since we started building the pyramids.
I know. Yeah, well, it hasn't changed. Yeah. So maybe it was my silly decision to go down this path in the first place.
Anyways, mate, interesting insights. Thank you for your insights on differences between 3910 and 3915. It's I've never been part of 3915 before, so I've never. I mean, you don't need a planner.
Yeah, no, that's right.
When you're using 3915, what's the point?
Yeah,
but no, it's quite interesting.
Yeah,
good chat.
Yeah.
Perfect. Fuck, you're getting a lot of 1 minute clips off that.
There were lots in that one.
Yeah. Okay. Where do you want to go?
Up to you.
Up to me.
Jeez, man, I'm easy.
Mate, there's no fucking pressure here, right?
Can talk about anything for ages. That's why. So Bob Foster is the guy that I was talking about from Arrow. I'd rather not use his name on here.
Yeah.
But his.
You know it's recorded now.
Oh, whatever. Look, he's a really good friend / mentor. He's been brilliant, and he always said when I first met him, I met him on my birthday at my sister-in-law's wedding in about 2009 or something, and it was there. He said, he's like, I don't get how you're an engineer, because he's an ex-engineer as well. He's a little bit more like a typical engineer who's a bit removed, a bit quieter, smart. I'm not smart, nor am I quiet. That's kind of probably why they didn't think I was an engineer. But the art of a good engineer that then come builder, let's say, is the ability to come up with a really good solution and then really sell it. And that's, I guess, where they saw my strength.
Yeah, right.
I mean, there's no one more passionate about the stuff that we do than me. So that's kind of where it all transpired, I guess.
Yeah, okay. Let's get into something quite related to that, shall we? Yeah, okay. Ready? Do you want to know the question I'm going to ask you?
No, you just hit it. Oh, I'm fine, mate. What's the worst that can happen? I start diverting and start talking about snow ski trips to Japan.
That'd be awesome. Brett, look back on your career for the last 17 years. Yep. You've done interesting roles. Well, what kind of advice would you give aspiring professionals who want to excel in their career, who want to kind of follow different paths, who are confused, who don't know which direction to take? I want to be a great designer. I want to be a good project manager.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, how would you?
Well, I hear your question, and this is an interesting one. Well, I think when your person sent me a list of questions that I might get asked, I think that one was the hardest one. But then I came up with something last night.
Oh, did you?
And what it is
hey, by the way, just for the audience, this is not rehearsed. We don't have these.
Yeah, no, there's no rehearsal here. I was like,
he just did prep.
What do I do? No, what did it? It's interesting in the respect that I look over my whole career. I started straight out of high school as a draftsman. That led to engineering because it was an engineering firm, and I was thinking at the time that's the best possible way through. And I came out with an engineering degree, and I kind of fell into this role where I could do anything because I was a designer and a drafty, and Becca really used that. And it was, to be honest, it was fun. But man, I was working 300-hour months. Like I was cranking it. And they saw that desire and that passion. And then I went from there and I created Canterbury Young Professionals. Well, I was part of the group that created Canterbury Young Professionals and became the president almost immediately. And then 4 years later, handed it over. And we'd taken that nationwide and we'd done all this stuff. And then during that time, I started going to Les Mills and became a group fitness instructor. And next thing you know, I'm taking 5 or 4 group fitness classes every week. And even from there all the way through to where I am now, what I have is I think what you need to excel in anything is passion. You have to be passionate about it. I was passionate about drafting. I used to go, it was in Palmerston North, so it was a lot easier to travel, but I used to go in there, I was like there at 7 o'clock every morning, and you'd go home at 6, you'd come back at 7:30 and you'd work till 10:30 because that's what you did. And it was fun. And we were passionate about it. And
I did that today.
yeah, there we go. Yeah, and it's the same with me like now. Like I live a mile out of town, but I come in first thing in the morning. So then, I guess my advice revolves around what is it in your daily habits that create the right atmosphere for you to excel in.
Yep.
And what it is getting up early and having something that you've got to do in that day and getting it done by 10 a.m.
You had to bring up getting up early, didn't you?
Yeah, you have to. But
no, I don't, though. Yeah.
I had to do that because I live a long way out of town.
On a good day, I don't wake up until fucking 10 a.m.
Oh, no, look, I wish I could. But you can tell, like, I'm sitting here right now.
Yeah.
Okay, yes, I've had a coffee. You're all going, man, how many cans of V has that guy drunk? And I haven't had any.
Yeah.
And it kind of comes down, I mean, like, okay, I'm a bit naturally like this. But when I found, and the gym was a big part of this, when I found something that I was tremendously passionate about, it motivated me to go more and more and more and harder.
Yeah.
But then I kind of look at it now. I stopped working at Les Mills in 2020, and I look at this now, and I have no problems maintaining that momentum and that passion, just purely because it's almost like a ball that starts to roll. Sometimes I need something to instigate it. Sometimes we need a break.
Yep.
But it's there. It's kind of getting into those habits, and those habits can then revolve around whether that person you're talking about be going into design and going into an office and working for 8, 9, 10, 12 hours a day, staring at a computer screen trying to solve problems. You've got to be passionate about wanting to solve those problems.
Absolutely. 100%.
And I think if you've got that passion, you're going to do well regardless.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm kind of the same. Like, I got into, here's an interesting story. I actually trained my entire life to become a Formula One race engineer.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, awesome. I love cars.
Mate, all through my engineering, I used to spend my time on racetracks.
Wow,
And, I'm working my way towards being a race engineer. That's all I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And I specifically wanted to be Lewis Hamilton's race engineer.
Who
44 for life, but never mind.
Cool.
Right? 2008 happened.
Yes.
And I was in Dubai and couldn't land a job.
Oh, no.
Yep. And
right.
and it just became a case of survival for me
Yep.
at that point. It's like, all right, how long can I live off
Yep.
mom and dad's bank?
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
I need to start doing something. I'm in a
Yep.
foreign country. The fear kicks in, right?
Yeah, totally.
Fuck, it kicks in.
Yep.
And lucky enough, I landed a job with Mott MacDonald as a
Is that
as a
right?
planner. They came for a group interview, and they just found me to be analytical and social at the same time. They said, that's kind of the unicorn we're looking for. I wasn't a great student. I was a shit student.
Yeah, same, by the way. So,
Yeah, I was I was a pretty average student.
So you get degrees, man.
Yeah, mate. That's it. I got my degree. But what happened was, what I realized was being a race engineer wasn't very different to project controls.
No, fair point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So being a race engineer, I would have had to manage change in milliseconds.
Yeah.
And make decisions in milliseconds.
Yeah.
But as a project control professional, I manage change in days.
Yeah.
So the timeline varies, the industry is different, but it's kind of the same.
It's the same stuff.
Mate, and what I do just comes naturally to me. Like I don't, and I'm extremely passionate about it. Like I love what it's not even like working for me. It's like me having fun. It's like
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah. And I said I wake up at 10 o'clock. That's probably because I work till 3 in the morning. Or 2 in the morning.
Yep. Been there, done that. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a cycle that kind of works for me.
Absolutely.
I mean, I put the kids to bed, and that's it.
I was doing that for a good portion of the years in David Reed Holmes. We went through some real rocky years. 2020 was an absolute classic for it. I mean, I think I'd taken my first full-time staff member on the beginning of March before the end of March, we were already in lockdown, and I'm like, how do we sustain this?
Yeah.
By about the mid to late part of 21, we were still kind of in the same boat, and it was sort of like pulling my hair out, staying up late at night, couldn't see straight just about. Interesting story though. In October 2020, the 30th, it's about a week away, my son turned 8 and got a guitar for his birthday.
Oh, yeah.
And my mum's family are very musical, and she was kind of like, you should pick that up. And I'm like, Gumby fingers, don't know how that's going to go. Turned out, I remember Tuesday nights. Well, actually, two things happened. One, I remember about 11:30 on a Tuesday night in July in 2020 thinking, I know why people have problems with suicide in this industry. That was not to say I got to that level. I'm not that person. However, I realised at about that point that this is where it goes. And this is the kinds of stresses and pressures that can cause people to think like that. So a couple of months later, after many, many more sleepless nights, got to this point in October where my son's guitar, little wee thing, sitting in the lounge, and I'm like, start picking it up and start doing stuff. By Christmas, had my own guitar. 1 year later, we've got 3 electric guitars, a set of drums, and it's been like a thing that I was able to do with him eventually. Admittedly, he's now gone skyrocket because he's young and they learn things fast. But talk about fun. And that, now, at night time, if I have any issue that I'm still kind of chewing on, I'll go and sit in the room and just play some guitar, and I go to bed and I can fall asleep.
Wow.
Yeah, which is a big change.
That's an amazing story. But interestingly enough, I got to the point where I was managing too many projects, and at that point,
yes,
as a consultant, it's that's a fine line.
Yeah,
yep. Very fine line.
Yeah.
You've just overcommitted.
Yeah,
just a tiny bit.
Yeah,
and then you start losing it. I engaged Drew Knowles. Do you know who Drew Knowles is?
No, I don't.
Mate, man's a genius. Man's an absolute genius.
Really?
Like how he rewired my brain just helped me put things in perspective for me. Yeah, it was just beautiful.
Yeah.
And I worked with him for about 6 months to help me manage my stress, understand what I can and can't do.
Yeah, right.
Surround myself with a good team of people. That support structure.
Yeah.
I mean, alternatively, hit him up if you need any more help.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, I'm a little bit lucky. I've got, like, my mum and dad. My dad probably went through the same thing. He started a business just before the share market crash in the 80s. Business is still going now. He's kind of been there, done that, seen that. Sheet metal industry, probably kind of similar challenges to what we have. But yeah, it's like a mum and dad thing, reliant on. I've got my youngest brother who's tremendously good, like being able to bounce stuff off as well. So, but no, point taken, because it's important, especially in our in the construction industry, to be able to keep a level head in perspective.
Absolutely, yeah. Now, okay, so key message there is passion.
Absolutely right.
You want to grow in your career?
You've got to do something that creates it.
Yeah.
However that happens.
You. Identify what drives you.
That's it.
Yeah. Now, interesting perspective, mate.
That was great. Same thing, there was a tiny bit longer, but you just got on a good roll.
Yeah, I think you can cut that in two, eh?
Yeah.
You cut the mental health out of it into a separate one. And okay.
Yeah. Stresses. I just want to quit and start selling jet skis. That's actually what I want to do.
How many sections have you got? How many segments have you got? Have you got enough?
We've done 4 sections so far. I mean, that one could be split into 2, so 5.
How many more do you want to do? I like keeping it to like 35 minutes because that's your drive time from work to home.
Yeah, good point. Well, not me, it's not. Mine's much longer, but no, that's good.
Yeah, average drive time.
No, I'm easy, man. If you want to do another one, that's fine. If you don't,
we have to do one more, which is the personal one, which is
yeah, cool.
All right, should we do one more?
Yeah.
Cool. Right. I need to stop calling you David in my head.
We need to get your name tag.
Fuck, mate.
Brett from David Reed Holmes. Yeah.
I really need to call him
Not David.
not David. That's what you need to put on there.
That's
not
a good
David.
One. Not David Reed. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're not the only one, mate.
I'm not the only one.
There's a lot.
I wonder why though.
I need to speak to David Reed. Yeah, that will be me, but my name's Brett.
Brett, talk to me about your passion for Japanese cars.
Oh man, I can go all day.
No, don't go all day. Why? Why?
Like, I don't even know. There's something that's happened. Maybe it's when I got older. I have 3 young kids.
But it's Japanese cars though.
It's Japanese
special about them?
cars.
Nothing.
I know. And what's even more weird is my dad and mum, we've always been into cars. And they have had all kinds of cars. Like, you name it, they've had it. Now, definitely more at that European stage. He's got a couple of toy cars, and they're brilliant, and they're awesome. But I have no interest in them. They're awesome, but I've got zero interest in them. I'm almost trying to relive my youth, and I have a funny feeling that attachment comes from the cars that I grew up around in the late 90s, and it's just what it is. And so
So all the cars that are expired 10 years past in Japan, they ship it here.
oh mate, if I could, I would. I'd have it I'd fill up a whole friggin' warehouse full of them. Yeah. So
Why?
and my youngest brother. So my youngest brother Tyler's.
Why?
I don't know. There's something about them. It's the
Yes, they're
the
reliable.
little-
Yes, they're reliable.
well, no, some of them aren't. No, I mean, like, by the way, I picked up a Mitsubishi Evo 8 MR. So it's a bit of a limited edition. It's done hardly any Ks. And I found it, and it was in Invercargill. I'm like, ugh. And everyone's just like, just ship it. I'm like, there's no fun in shipping it. So I flew down and took it for a drive. I'm like, yep, I'm buying it. Bought it on the spot. Jumped in the car, drove it all the way back to Auckland in a day and a half.
Mate, you're crazy.
And most people were like, that car's going to blow up. And I'm like, no, it's not. It didn't even use any oil. I'm like, turns out it was a good car. We got it outside. It's so much fun. But yet, then a week later, I'm driving my dad's C63S AMG Edition 1 Mercedes, awesome car. And it's got all the mod cons, and I'm like, nah, so I'd rather jump in the Mitzi. This weird clutch, and it's kind of lag and then boost, and just there's something about it. But honestly, my youngest brother's 11 years younger than me, so he's 30, and we have this thing. We're going out and we're hunting for these old, well, say almost only Japanese. Some of them aren't, but most of them are. Yeah. Geez, if I could, man, I'd have heaps.
Look at that sparkle in your eye when you're talking about Japanese
it is a
cars,
passion.
eh?
It's a passion. There's a couple of things that do it for me. That's one of them.
I still don't even understand why, but
No. Most people don't. Most people are like, why'd you buy that? How much did you spend? Like that kind of answer. I'm like, yeah, believe it or not, this is cool. It's also quick. And I think my dad was the surprise one because he's like, looking at this old 20-year-old Mitsubishi, and he's like, ugh. And I'm like, Dad, that is as quick as your brand new T-Roc R Volkswagen.
Yeah.
Same speed. In fact, probably slightly faster. He's like, bullshit. I'm like, I'm not lying.
All right. Let's talk about your fitness journey now.
Yeah. Now that sucked. I've got a love-hate relationship.
So how? Well, you help me understand what's the love for fitness? So why'd you become an instructor in Les Mills?
Well, look,
I mean, you in construction and you.
Yeah. Always been into sport, especially basketball. I now coach 7 basketball teams in Franklin. I'm
cool.
heavy into it. That's another one of my passions. I've always loved basketball. I just can't play it quite as much as I used to because I'm broken. I got out of university, and like everyone that went to university, probably drank too much, a little bit unhealthy, and got out. And I remember going to a spin class at Les Mills, like RPM class. And
Yeah, I've been in one of those.
Yeah.
I mean, I go to F45 now, but
Yeah. Well, it nearly killed me. And I was
Did
like,
it?
But the person, the instructor, the lady named Terry, and she'd picked up firstly that I was new, but secondly that I'm one of those people that you can kind of target and give a bit of shit, and I bloody loved it. I revelled in it. And so the next thing I joined up and started going over and over again, and then that was about, would have been July.
she's a sucker for punishment.
Yeah. By November, I'm dating this lady who's now my wife, and she says, we'll go to the gym in the morning, and I'm like, yeah, I'll go and do some bicep curls in the mirror, as you do. And she goes, why don't you come to Body Attack? And I'm like, aerobics, righto, Now, what she didn't know is that basketball training at high school, we used to do step aerobics because it's brilliant for your legs and really good for cardio. We used to do it as off-season training. And so next thing you know, I turn up to Body Attack and I have the coordination. A couple of months later, they're like, do you want to be an instructor? I'm like, oh, okay, sure. So next thing you know, I'm a learning instructor and Body Attack. And then after I kind of got certified, then they put me into RPM because I like mountain biking, and that was kind of the next thing. And so, next thing you know, I've got classes, and it's kind of funny, though. The fitness was a byproduct. It wasn't what I was there for. What I was there for is the room of people. My Christchurch RPM class had 40 seats, and they'd be full. And it was like, oh my goodness, this energy. There's all these people.
It's
you turn off the lights, it was like an orgy. Like great fun. Everyone's getting sweaty, heaps of loud music, don't know really what's going on. You walk out feeling completely satisfied. Yeah, so, I mean, I was into it. And then Body Attack's the same, but you have 150 people there. And then when we moved to Auckland, this is like the shrine up here. And it was the same thing. It was like, it takes a little bit long, you know, you got to build those classes up. But by the time the latter part of my sort of stint here and before I stopped, the classes were huge. And it was just, like, I felt I needed to be there for them. I didn't know, and it doesn't really matter what happened to me.
Yeah.
If I sore knee, who gives a shit? Yeah, just push on.
Yeah.
And
No, I get that feeling though. Like,
Yeah.
I show up to F45 and
Yep.
every day.
yeah, yep.
Every day, and it's just one. I have an addictive personality.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, I'm but the same.
I get into something, I get into it,
Yep.
or I
100%.
just don't.
Yep.
Or I don't commit at all.
No, good.
Yeah, and mate, it's intoxicating.
Yeah, no, it totally is. Yeah.
It's
So-
like literally you're dying in the moment, but
Yeah,
you
yeah.
just look around the room, you feel that energy, and
Yeah.
you're going,
Yeah.
damn, there's
Yeah,
nowhere
yeah.
else I'd rather be.
No, that's it. That's
Yep.
exactly right. But then worst case scenario was COVID came along in 2020, so all the classes were shut off, and when I at that point only had one class left because I was basically it was too far down. So where they kind of left us off the timetable, and then I went a year off fitness, and then came back into it now, and I just do my own thing. But so it's not quite the same as it used to be. But I tell you what, they were the good old days I used to love.
Yeah. Mate, interesting insights. Mate, I want to really thank you for your time. Thank you for being here.
No problem.
And,
No problem. It's been a lot of fun.
All your insights, and yeah, hopefully maybe we'll do it again sometime soon.
Totally, mate.
Yeah, thank you so
Easy.
much, dude.
Thanks, man. Nah, it's cool.